record to the client. I'm not gonna live stream because it's too complicated. This was something that we were butting into a lot, and I'm going to show you some systems and processes that we've built to help tap into this vendor network, because your vendor list is 100% your SOI, right? These are people that know, like, and trust you. And the great thing is these are people that I hope you also know, like, and trust, since you're referring them out. So the relationship's already there. And one of the things that I just want to jump off with is there's some of you probably on this call being like, well, what does the sphere of influence have to do with vendors? Your sphere of influence, so often, especially if you're a newer agent, your perception is that this mythical sphere of influence is suddenly going to be your client list. Like, all of a sudden, because you start working your sphere of influence, your friend from your previous job that lives in a neighborhood next door is going to be like, you know what, Ashley Bomarito, I saw you got licensed and you've inspired me. I want to do a real estate transaction with you. It just doesn't happen that way, guys. And I'm really here to be like, don't look at your sphere as this giant pool of leads, because it will disappoint you, but more importantly, you'll work it the wrong way and you'll disappoint them. And when you disappoint them, they won't work for you the same way that they could. How many of you are in an organization where you have an ISA that's on staff for you? How many of you are on a team with an ISA? What we're trying to do through this sphere of influence work is we're actually trying to help hire you guys a bunch of ISAs that you get to pay in, like, cute little pop buys and, like, niceties, client events, things like that. How many of you feel like your business could benefit if you could have an ISA that was working for you all the time in your community? Raise your hand. Ooh, y'all are so quiet today. Has anyone ever thought about their sphere that way before? That's essentially all that they are. That's what they become. Again, I can't reiterate this enough. So many times we're looking to this list of people that know, like, and trust us, our kids' parents at school, parents that we're on ball teams with, whatever that looks like. We're going to those groups and we're thinking that they're going to be clients, and we're waiting for them to be clients. And that mentality of waiting for those people to be clients is where I think people miss sphere a lot. I believe that that's a huge miss for a lot of us. And so vendors, I think, are a really great place that we can jump in and we can say, look at this little pocket of sphere that we have that we can service in a completely different way than we can service parents that are on ball teams. So I'm going to share my screen, and this is not going to be great because I'm terrible at technology, but I want to show you something our team's been kind of working on. And I always go to the extreme. So you're going to see something extreme, and I don't want you to shy away from it. I just want you to understand the importance of the framework. So in 2 seconds, I'm going to be smart enough to share my screens. And then you're going to be like, there's no way she built that website because she can't even share her screen on social media or on Zoom. All right, where is it? Where is it? Can you see my screen now? Yes? Oh, good.
Yeah, sorry, we can see it.
Talks on these calls. It makes me so nervous. I hate talking on them. So no one talks, just talk.
Okay, fine. I'm not gonna keep it unmuted because my dog is gonna bark, but I will jump in.
I love the sounds of the dog barking. So we built a website. Our team did this past week. But this has been a project that's been on our rocks for this year. This was something that we wanted to accomplish because, just like I talked about earlier, we're constantly sending out referrals to these vendors. And when we talk vendors, y'all, I hope you know that this is just community partners. This is not just your contractor. This is just not your flooring person. This is not just, your roofer. You should really be thinking about this from a holistic approach. Who's every single person that provides a service in your community that you could include on this list? We actually felt like we had a lot of holes in ours because, like, we didn't have, like, hairstylists, like things that people need when they move to town that we wanted to partner with. I used old Chat GPT. Phil Stringer would be so proud to help generate a list. So if you're struggling to even start with this, go to Chat GPT and say, hey, I'm trying to build a vendor list for my real estate business. I want to make sure that I'm including all types of businesses that might be present in my local community of Fuquay Varina, North Carolina, of Beaufort, South Carolina, of Cary, North Carolina, wherever y'all may be on these calls, Atlanta, Georgia, and say, can you help me generate a list of services or business styles that I should incorporate in this list? Go be very, very specific with ChatGPT, and it's going to shoot you out a huge list. And then just start plugging some holes. Figure out, who do you already know? Who are some people that you need to go know? And so one of the things that we're trying to do is very much legitimize this vendors list, not because we're dead set on making sure that this is a streamlined process for our clients, but because this is a huge network of our sphere that we're just not touching at a high level. We're sending them referrals. We're doing probably the most impactful thing we can do for this subsection of our sphere of influence, but we weren't mailing on them monthly. They're not, half of them aren't in our database, which was so embarrassing for me. Like my power washer, not in my database. That's insane. Referring him business constantly, and he's on no system or process for being dripped on, being taken care of. And so we've built this website, and one of the things that we're trying to do is legitimize our vendor list. And I think that this is something that you guys could definitely look at, whether you're a single agent, on a team, whatever that may be. How can you systematize getting these people into your database? How many of you have loads and loads of vendors that are stored in your phone?
I do.
How many of, yes, Stephanie, thank you for those very loud words. I appreciate it. How many of you reach out to them any other time except when you're sending them a referral out? I wasn't. I literally was just sending them referral after referral, which they appreciated and loved, but I wasn't showing them the rest of my business. I was showing them that I was in real estate, and then I was surprised that no referrals were coming back. So we're making that pivot. So think about, how can you systemize people getting into your database? And so when we're talking about vendors, I think one thing that's really important that you could look at is we use a website called Cognito Forms. If you've used Google Forms and they frustrate you, Cognito Forms is going to be your friend. It's much cleaner. It's a lot easier. It automates a lot of places. And so one of the first steps we have is just making sure that we get all the person's information, right? I might have Joe, the flooring guy's number in my phone, but sure, I'd like to know his mailing address. I'd like to know how long he's been in business. I'd like to know what areas he services, and I want to collect all that information together. So creating a form that they can fill out that gives you all of that information so that you can start building a vendor list. And think how easy this is going to be to text over and say, hey, Joe, my favorite flooring guy. I don't know why my flooring people always have to be guys. I just feel like flooring guy goes together. But why, Joe? Joe, can you fill this list out? I want to make sure that you're on our preferred vendor list so that when we have a client that has a need, that we can get their information over to them. So you can see the questions that we ask. What services do you offer that are relevant to the real estate industry? How long have you been providing these services? What are turnaround times? What makes your services unique? What geographical areas do you cover? Start building a database of vendors through this list. The next thing too, if you guys have meetings, this is for team leads on the call, make sure that you're inviting and extending an opportunity for them to come to your team meeting and talk to your people, right? Ashley, I don't know if you want to, I know you just kind of mentioned it, but this kind of stemmed for you guys when you did your event the other week, where you invited everyone in to make sure that your agents knew everyone, right? That's on your vendor list. So just systematizing this, creating some kind of event in person. And then our team's going on a little bit further to actually have vendors sponsor some regular events that we're hosting. And so that's where you see step 3. But just really being able to send out some kind of form, some kind of thing that legitimizes them as, hey, you're on our vendor list. You're not just floating around. We think of you sometimes. Systematize it. This will also allow you to take that information and make sure that these people in your database, so that you can build a pipeline off of it. Because goodness knows, this to me should be one of those pillars of your sphere that you're probably not tapping into. And I know that we were not. And I was very disappointed by how many referrals we were sending out and how few were coming back. But then I looked at it and I was like, but I'm not systematically working this section of my sphere. I was taking them for granted. I was using them as a vendor, not as a sphere person. Does that make sense? Any thoughts on that from the peanut gallery on the call today?
Anna, do you regulate this at all? Like, I would assume if you had 9,700, I mean, there's just some people that, I wouldn't necessarily refer somebody to,
Yep.
Right? Just because of quality of work or whatever it may be. What if they sign up and do this and you're like, no, we've had like ethical issues or something like that with them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go in and remove them?
Yeah, we'll have to. true. And we do, I mean, and we've seen negative feedback on, and our vendor list, guys, was a spreadsheet, like, and it still is until all this gets finished. But like our vendor list was just a spreadsheet where anyone was going in and plugging in names. And again, I think from the conversation today, the more like basic level is like making sure that you're systematizing these people that you already know, like, and trust. So again, we're not going out onto like our Ladies of Fuquay Varina pages and being like, hey, do you own a business in this category? Like, let's rock and roll. Like, we're really taking advantage of the fact that these people are, for the most part, already in our agent spheres. I see Kristen's on the call. Like, she brought an amazing pool company to an event at a house that we have listed that it was a pool ready lot, to do an education piece for our agents on what to look for when you need to put a pool in. Ironically, I think that was at the top of Kristen's to-do list this morning on a property she's submitting an offer on. Like, those are the people we're just trying to further solidify that relationship. So Stephanie, in theory, like, people that we already know, like, and trust are going on the list, versus it just being a collection of whoever is in the community that fits that service industry, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone feel like this is something that's pretty executable in their business?
Yeah, I already screenshot it and sent it to my director of operations and said, do this.
Yes. Does anyone feel like this was an aha, like, oh my gosh, this is a pillar of my sphere that I've not treated the right way? Because I know, like, when I saw this, I was like, oh crap. And actually, it was actually Bomarito's like vendor event that I was like, oh gosh, that's such a great idea. Let me think about that more. She wondered why they didn't have one, and then invented it. And then I took it further and I was like, how can I make it more helpful? So that's why you have to be around people. So again, just with this vendor piece, like, just remembering that this is a pillar of your sphere. And I didn't mean to go on a vendor tangent, but I'm realizing that so many of us think that our sphere of influence is just a pile of leads. And then we're disappointed when they don't perform or they don't act as such. And that's not what our sphere of influence is. And I think the vendor conversation is a great example of what that looks like. I'll show you quickly one other thing that we're doing, because I like to be tactical. We're doing actually an event in the community. It'll be like a regularly scheduled thing. Our marketing team is going to roll this out at our meeting this morning. But again, being able to provide to our sphere in our community opportunities for seminars. Actually took this from Joe Turco, who's one of our EXP partners up in Boston. And he talked a lot about how so many of us do these first-time home buyer seminars or seller seminars. Stephanie, you kind of hit on this too in your first conversation. But figuring out ways to put people in rooms together that aren't the general, just overused, I think, real estate seminar styles. And so we're doing one in a couple weeks, just talking about what does the NAR settlement mean for homeowners in our community, right? Joe lives up in Boston. He does a lot of luxury. He does seminars on like the wharf being repurposed or like being updated, like things that are relevant to your community that can service your sphere of influence. So again, this is another cool way that we're tying our vendors in, because we're asking them now to buy into our organization a little bit, pay for a seat at this table to advertise their needs, and then we're able to introduce them to our sphere as well. So just in case you saw that and were curious. Okay, what questions do we have that I can answer before we get more into our sphere people? Nothing. So good. Ashley Bomarito, don't you have a question? Like one?
I don't have like one question yet. I'm having my assistant John work on the site that you sent over. I was like, this is genius, and it's so much easier, and I'm gonna have people plug into it. So no, it's great. Fantastic. But I agree about, we don't get a lot of referrals. I mean, I constantly am trying to build everyone else's business. Like, how do I get my painter more business? How do I get, my photographers more business? Like, who can I refer them to and keep them in a house, because it's just fun to see them grow. But I don't know that we are tapping into that or kind of getting anything back from it. And I do believe that they should be maybe a little more integrated into our business. So I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that, again, going back to this idea and this concept that you're trying to create small inside sales agents, all over the community for yourself, if you really start understanding that that's the role of your sphere of influence, and it's not to suddenly become buyers or sellers, you're just going to be more successful with this style of work. I built my business on it. And I feel like for me, it's just always been, it's been for me very similar to an agent who's very good at expired calls. Emily Brown, Tina Call, they can go and they can hop on a phone, they can spend 4 hours a day on that call, and they know that results are coming from it. And I think for a lot of agents, they feel like the sphere work is a longer play, that it's a little bit more ambiguous, that I don't. I have it so systematized that I know that when that monthly mailer hits, X amount of people are going to respond to my phone and open up X amount of conversations. Unfortunately, for many of us in real estate, it's just a consistency game that a lot of us are not really great at playing. Hi, Chris. I see your hand is raised.
I unraised my hand because I realized I missed the beginning of your presentation. But I'll just make it a quick question. How do we continue to foster that vendor thinking about us when they walk into a house and when they meet with somebody who just randomly needs a light bulb, a light fixture installed? How do you kind of stay there and make it really easy for them to share your contact?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, I think you put them into a system that looks a lot like how we treat our current database, where they're receiving those monthly mailers, that they're receiving those monthly e-newsletters, so that we are saying that we're doing the pop by activities. And what I love about singling out the vendors though, and having that, is you can make those a little bit more impactful for them. So I think that's kind of what I was talking about at the beginning. Like that's the piece of my business that I was missing. I kept sending this power washer all this business, but I was never showing him my business. Like he knew I was sending him people, but he wasn't seeing the proven information and stats and the things that I was sharing with my database, because I thought that sending him a referral was good enough. Well, he doesn't, I mean, that's great for him, but I mean, it's kind of just like, it's like what Stephanie says, but if they don't know that we're proven, they might not want to waste their good name referring us to someone. And that's where I think that form can be really helpful, because being able to get addresses for these people, making sure that they make it from just being a vendor that popped up in our world to actually being in our database, being on those systems and processes of getting a mail or getting a new e-newsletter, getting a pop by, getting invited to quarterly client appreciation events. They'll be able to see us really working and not just think of us as like an inside sales agent for them. Did I answer your question at all?
Yeah, Anna, can I piggyback on that statement?
Yeah.
Chris, I think sometimes you just have to ask for it. I think you just have to be like, hey, like I'm sending you another referral. Hey, keep me in mind for your next one. Like whenever you send it, like it doesn't hurt to just come out and ask politely. If you text them and you're like, hey, blah, 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 Sally Joe's going to contact you. Keep me in mind for your next one. Like every now and then, I wouldn't do it every time, but just every now and then that little subtle reminder could go a long way.
Well, it's just like any lead that we get in our world, the follow-up, it's all in the follow-up. So, I've got buy-in from a couple vendors. We spent a lot of money on our house, building our house and converting garage and attics, my office, et cetera. And I'm like, hey, keep me in mind. And it's like, yeah, absolutely, get the thumbs up. But then, 3 months from now, when somebody's getting ready to sell their home and hires them on. So like you were saying, it's follow-up. We got to keep top of mind, even with the vendors, and make it really easy to share that contact info, as well.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I think what happens typically in this like referral world is people meet someone, they really like them, they feel like they jive, that their businesses align, and you're just excited about the partnership and you're just kind of go. What we're seeing is, once you've hit that 10th or 11th or 12th referral out and you're not seeing something come in, at that point, it's really almost like it's too late because now there's just this frustration. And we actually just picked up a wealth management company here in the Triangle that had always used some really good friends of theirs, and they were very close. But unfortunately, I think that like they just were watching so many outbound referrals go to this real estate agency and not seeing anything come in to them. And so we're the frustration happens, and then it's like a new relationship. And so we just don't want to ever get it to a place where we're so frustrated that we feel like we're losing losing that relationship opportunity. Because a lot of times people just be like, oh, the heck with it, right? That's when they start, it's too late by the time they notice that that's not been reciprocated. So trying to avoid that as well. Anything else on that, guys? Man, I really want some W's on the call. Okay, so going back to, and I kind of just touched on it, but systematically reaching that database. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen, and I'm also going to put a link to a Canva document into the chat for you guys. Just give me 2 seconds because I'm not great at multitasking. I'm going to send you, it's like our calendar. It's just going to be a Canva link. And I'm going to open that up, and you can share this and give it to your peoples. I hope you'll use it. But I want to show you, when we were talking about that follow-up, what my systematic, just like it never fails. What does my month look like? As far as rhythm goes for touching, sorry, I can't stop saying it, touching people in my sphere of influence. And one of the things that's just so important about your sphere is that you don't recognize is that they are looking for consistency. And I think that's one of the really big things about sphere work is if you're going to jump in it and you're going to do it, you got to commit to doing it consistently, because one of the things that you're building just alongside of sharing with them how valuable your information is, how a wealth of knowledge you are in real estate, how professional you are, all of those things with the work that I'm going to show you that you can do. Just them seeing that mailer hit their inbox every other week or every other month or whatever your rhythm is going to be shows consistency and trustworthiness. And I love that. One of my best feedback I ever get from people is when they're like, oh my gosh, you're in my inbox every single month. It never fails. And I think that's awesome. So let me share with you my screen. And I just dropped that in the link. We're going to head over to like page 23 and talk a little bit about how to manage this data set. And this is coming right out of Brian Buffini's playbook. So this is not revolutionary information. I'm just here to make sure that you have it. Oh man. So many buttons. I should have made Haley sit next to me. Okay, so first and foremost, I don't know how big your databases are. When I started, my database was like 60, 70 people. That was like my first run at trying to get all the list of people that know, like, and trust me into my data set. If you've ever gone through training at any normal real estate brokerage, they've told you as you're creating your sphere of influence list, they'll be like, just think about all the people in your world that might buy or sell with you. And like, that's where, that's why most people screw this up right off the bat. My best coaching tip now is to imagine putting yourself in a position where you've gotten bold enough that you're going to run for public office. And I actually learned this when I was not bold, but stupid enough to run for public office. My sister-in-law is not on this call, so I can blame her. And we had to, I thought I was going to have this list of all these people because I was like, oh, I have my real estate database. So like, we can just use that and that's going to reach everyone I needed to reach. And I looked at it and I was like, holy moly, there's so many people that should be on this list that are not, because my brain, I shifted the prism and I wasn't thinking about my business. I was thinking about showing up in my community. And so now when I'm coaching newer agents to develop this list, I say, let's think about you running for public office. Let's get the real estate business crap out of the way, because this is much bigger than that. And let's figure out who would you want to send your initial email to, like, hey, Bob, I am running for school board because I'm so passionate about problems in our school systems and where our children are going. And I just know that if you know that I'm running for office, that you are going to be behind me. That's the list that you're looking to develop. And I hope for a lot of you that have never really tapped in and gotten this sphere of stuff going, I really hope that this little nugget changes your perspective on it, because I guarantee you, if you go at it from this lens and you go look at your database, you're going to be like, oh, I missed someone. You sure did. Because this is the list that you're trying to develop. From there, you're going to grow this thing. Now, I think my personal database is over 500 people. And that's not leads, that's truly just sphere of influence. And you've got to have a really good system for managing them, because I can tell you, if you have a list of 70 and you have a list of 500, your capabilities change. Dan Beer used to say this. He would be like, I envy those of you in the room with only 30 past clients. He's like, I have thousands of past clients. And I remember being like, you're a dick. I was like, why would you say that? That's not nice. I want the 1,000 past clients. I don't want the 30 past clients. But he talked about the capabilities that you have to service that smaller data set is actually profound. The way that you can love on those people looks very different than how I can love on our past client list now. And so I'm starting to understand what he's talking about. There's a lot of power in having a small list. One of the ways that you can cheat having a large list, but still be able to service at a high level, is by ranking your contacts. And again, this is straight out of Brian Buffini's page, but I want to make sure that you have this, and I sent you the link, but talking about ranking your clients A+, A, B, C, and D. One place where I differ a little bit from Brian Buffini is the Ds. In his training, he talks about if you have someone in your database who their aunt gets licensed, that you should put them in a D and then you delete them out, right? How many of you know someone who's gotten their real estate license in the last 2 years? And how many of you know that person who's already out of real estate? So I'm not a big believer in, again, and I think it's because I transcend a little bit that concept. Like, I'm just not a big believer in like that person can't have other realtors in their world, or can't have shown me that they've used a realtor that's different in the past. Because I know how much turnover is in the real estate industry, and I want to be there when that person's no longer licensed, if that happens, which is sad. Maybe we can just recruit them to EXP and make them better. But if I can't, I want to make sure that I'm still there. So I've really hardly deleted anyone out of my database. It's just not something that I go to and do. So I won't go too heavy into the rankings, but for me, my A+ are just absolutely proven people. Consistent referrals, raving fans. Like when someone says, oh, Claire sent me to you, then I just know, like, it doesn't surprise me anymore. I'm not like, oh my gosh, Claire thinks that of me. It's just systematic at this point. And I use Claire's name, and some of you on this call have heard me tell this story, because Claire is such a great example of why I hate that concept of the D's if people have real estate agents in their world. Claire is a friend of mine from college. She's been in my database since I got into real estate. She works for Sherwin-Williams here in Raleigh in the builder division. So she has tons of contacts with the Home Builders Association, very plugged in there. And so I was dripping on Claire. And all of a sudden I saw Claire's house go up for sale. And I was like, screw you, Claire. I've been freaking dropping cute things off at your house for 3 years, you jerk. And she would comment and be like, oh, your marketing is like the best in town. Like, love you. Like, I just thought I was like Claire's person. And she'd like literally referred me to someone. Well, Claire's house goes up for sale and it's not with me. And I'm internally just like combusting and dying. And I didn't really think much of it, but I deleted Claire out of my database because I had an ego at that time. And we were talking about egos this morning, Ashley and I were. And I literally was like, oh, screw you, Claire, bye forever. I'll show you. I'll delete you out of my database. And no more cute pop buys, no more sparklers for you on July 4th. And when I ran for office, because Claire had that Home Builders Association, I kicked myself in the butt and I was like, dag nabbit, you could have been working with her this whole time, but your ego got in the way. And I scheduled a cup of coffee with her. And we sat down and she's like, oh my gosh, she's like, I meant to tell you, like, my mother-in-law is in real estate, right? And I was like, oh, no, I didn't know that. She's like, yeah, it's my mother-in-law. She had to list our house for us. She's like, Anna, that woman is crazy. And I will never refer her to anyone. I only refer you, but I have to use my mother-in-law. And that's one of those places where I just think that we miss so many times because that person isn't transacting with us. But Claire is an A+ client for me because of the amount of referrals that she sends in. And when I have to think about my time and I have to think about how many touches does this person need, our A+s have to be handled with such care, because these are basically, if you think about it, these are your ISAs that are on staff for you. They're working for you constantly. They are making sure that your name is out in the community. And they're making sure that they're bold enough to say that and even insert it into places. So it's not, these people are not even just like waiting around for people to ask like for a realtor recommendation. They're literally putting our names into rooms and places and making sure that people know who we are. They truly are like brand ambassadors. And so you really have to make sure that you understand who these people are, and you have to give them an extra level of care. Our A clients are people that have done business with you. They're satisfied, and you're seeing those occasional referrals, but you're always still kind of like, oh, that's great. Oh, okay. All right, cool. Great. You're a little still kind of like, oh, they are referring me. There's that little, I always say there's that little bit of surprise. So if I have a little bit of surprise that someone referred me, then they're A clients for me. These are people that you've met. They have a relationship with you. For us now with ours and our data set size, most, like a lot of our Bs have done business with us because our database is so big. This is for those of you kind of setting out with maybe 70 to 150 people. But they maybe haven't experienced your services firsthand or referred you to anyone. And the key here is that they definitely know, they definitely like you, they definitely trust you, they understand what you're doing. And your goal here is, right, to be moving them further into that bullseye. And I'll show you the bullseye in a second. And then C's are your acquaintances. You've met them places. You want them to be in your world, but you've got to kind of show them. And this is what we were talking about with our vendors. This is where we screwed up. We kept leaving our vendors in this like C category, right? Where we really like, we were just kind of like, they were aware we were here, but the relationship wasn't deepened at any point. And so again, here, figuring out how to make sure that you get these people connected is huge, because your goal is constantly to move these people up. And I want to show you the bullseye so that you can understand what I'm talking about here. Those A pluses are in the center all the way out to your C's and D's. Oh no, sorry. So let's talk about the communication system that we use. And some of you have been on this call enough to know, oh shoot, I can't fix it. So embarrassing. There it is. To know this process, but I become more accountable every time I teach it. And so I hope that, those of you on this call that have heard it will be more accountable to make sure that these mailers get out this week. Because we have some coming, we have some coming to the office. So most people, when they get into this sphere work, is they start with note cards. How many of you are sending note cards out in your business on a regular basis? Bomarito, stop shaking your head. No, you're not sending note cards out. Can I have your database and I'll just nurture it, and then you pay me a 40% referral fee for everything that I can.
I send text messages and call, but I don't really send note cards.
So I started the very first thing, because like, let me tell you about me. I'm an IE and I'm a fast implementer. And so when I found the Brian Buffini system, I watched a 30-minute YouTube video, and what I pulled out from it was like, oh, I can start writing note cards right now. Like went to Walmart, got note cards, started writing them. And that was the first part of the system that I started grabbing onto. My very first listing came from a note card that I wrote someone who was in an expired house, but I knew the house because my aunt had built it. I put them into my database because I knew who they were, because they bought the house from my aunt and uncle, very first listing. And when I went on the appointment, they pulled the note card out. So that was pretty good positive affirmation for a new agent. So I was really big on the note cards. And people loved them, and people still love them, and people still reach out and say, I just can't believe 5 years in a row you've sent me a birthday card like that. You're so great. Like, I'm like, oh, thank you. Tell me more, because I'm an E and I need all your appreciation. But my business wasn't getting a lot busier from these people. They liked me. They liked their note cards. They said nice things about my note cards. But what I was told was, what I was told was a lot more. What I heard when I watched my 30-minute video was, if you write note cards, you'll get more business, right? And so I was very confused, because I was like, well, I'm doing this part and it's not working. And then I was like, well, maybe I need to start gifting them things too. I'll do the pop buys. I'm going to start with the pop buys now. So I everyone loves to talk about these. You can go on Etsy and order if you're not creative, but one of my signature things, I would do a hot sauce, mostly because it could ride around in my car and it wouldn't get destroyed. It wasn't like chocolate or candy that would melt. It had long shelf life. So if I didn't use it for a while, it was still good. So I would do like a label over my hot sauce. It would sit in their fridge for a long time. So they would see me every time they opened their fridge door. At least that's what I thought in my mind. Probably half of them threw it in the trash. But that was like, I was like, oh no, I'm going to do Popeyes. I'm going to gift this to my community, and they're going to start, using me for real estate transactions. I mean, business picked up a little bit, but like it didn't change dramatically. So that was when I was like, I got to figure out this whole system because obviously I'm missing something. And now I'm spending tons of time, my hands cramping every day because I'm writing so many letters and I'm spending all this money on stupid little Popeyes that like half the time I can't even get out to the, the right people at the right time. And so I was like, I'm going to really dive in and study. And one of the big takeaways when you learn this Buffini system and you have this 4 communication pillars are these monthly mailers. And I'm not talking like flashy, like direct mail, like beautiful, shiny, flat, matte, like cards that are coming in the mail. I'm talking about printed mailers that we trifold. We put into a regular old, I'm looking to see if there's one on my desk, a regular old envelope with a label, a return stamp, and an actual postage stamp in the right-hand corner. There is absolutely nothing sexy or flashy about these mailers. So if you're like, I can't do that, I don't have the budget to do that, like you do, you can go, like you can print them at your office in black and white. That's how basic these things have to be to work. The purpose of these mailers though, is to provide valuable information, market updates, real estate insights. These aren't fluffy little newsletters, like here's what's going on around town this week. Or, we do one a year that's a little bit fluffier. It's our December mailer. And we do kind of like you get at the holidays where you hear what everyone in the family's been up to for the last year. But ours are very market heavy. And I'm going to attempt to pull up my Canva, my second Canva account, and show you a couple of these that we've been working on. Maybe I might be smart enough. Let's see. Okay, so this is a great example. This is what we're sending out this month. Now we're dual purposing this because, spoiler alert, you can print 1,000 pieces of paper at Canva for $200.
We still have your communication pillars.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Hold on. I can figure it out. God bless America. It's so hard. Stop.
You got this.
I got this. It's just so
share.
hard.
It's fine.
Is it working?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay. I'm telling you, if you're taking your stuff to Staples to get printed or to like your local printer, I'm so sorry. Like you just have to plan ahead and you have to order from Canva. The prints are so beautiful. And if you are ordering in bulk, they are so cheap, like literally $200 and some for 1,000 of these trifold mailers. So this is the one we're doing for this month. And so essentially we wanted to create something though that people could hang on to as the news and the headlines continue to develop as we reach now, if you don't know on this call, August 17th. Stop telling your clients July. The date is August 17th for all the NAR settlement changes. If you didn't get that email from legal, here's your update. You're welcome. And how did I create this? I found a really great newspaper article that someone posted in one of our fast forward movement groups. And I literally took the information that was in the article and I dropped it in ChatGPT and I said, make it so I don't plagiarize this, but I want all of the major components. And so ChatGPT gave me this really great, formula where they gave me a statement, clarification, and explanation. What's great about these is we're going to also be able to throw these in our folders for listing appointments, buyer appointments, if we have any that are left over. So it's serving a dual purpose. But in the next week or so, 800 of these will leave our office and they'll go out into our database for our sphere to see. Every single person, A pluses, A's, B's, and C's are all going to receive this. The last mailer that we sent out, I have to jump around, talked about market conditions. It showed mortgage application rates from every 3 weeks and what we were seeing in our marketplace. Before that, we sent out something on just current inventory. We've sent out mailers. How many of you always are asking your database, do they want a CMA? How many of you have been like, who would like a CMA on their home? We sent a mailer out that explained to our database what a CMA was, how we created it, what the major elements were, how we decided which houses we were using as comps, how we created, how we rated value on a house that had a pool or solar panels or just things like that. What I saw happen in my business is as soon as these mailers started rolling out that were very, and you can see it just very, I mean, a lot of words, like very meaty, like graphics, things that personally I don't draw myself to very much, people were like, yeah, I know this person, I trust this person, and I'm gonna use this person, because my fluffy note card meant a lot to them and they loved my fluffy note card. But this showed them that I was referable, that I was trustworthy. And then the fact that they're consistently mailed continued to reiterate that fact, that she does what she says she's going to do. Does that make sense? How many of you are using like a mailer system at all in your business? Not like farm mailing, but like to your actual sphere of influence database. How many of you mail on them at least monthly?
Yeah, not me, but I probably should.
You
After
should.
hearing you talk, but
You should.
I don't.
You should, because I look at this as like, this is my employee base. These are my people that I don't have to pay a salary to, especially those A pluses, but they're out there in the community making sure that my business is growing, and I need to make sure that they're educated. I want them to know what we've been up to. What are we looking at every single month? It's very
How do you
easy.
feel about the pop buys? Do you feel like they work, like the little whatever?
I think that COVID really changed this. So pre-COVID, the pop buy was a purposeful drop in to see a person face to face, right? And so like it didn't count on your point system with Buffini unless you made contact with the person. Like you couldn't ding dong ditch them, like drop your president, like run away. So a lot of agents didn't like to do them because then they had to have conversations. COVID, when our business really started growing, like 2020, it was great because we could, because no one was going to, I mean, it was responsible to not knock at the door and be like, come on out, let's have a conversation. So we got much better at bigger systematic pop buys. So we would, 4 times a year, we would basically hit our entire database. There are such cool technology out there. I had a spreadsheet where I literally tracked like who lived close to one another so that I could send half of it with Robbie and I could take care of the other half. Because I know where everyone lives. So like I'm a creeper about that. And if you don't know where your whole database lives, that's what you should do, is create flashcards and like figure out where everyone lives. One of my favorite stories, I went to church and I told this lady, I was like, hey, Kelly, I need you to alter a dress for me. Like, and I need it turned around really quickly. Can you handle that? Because she does alterations work out of her home. And she's like, yeah, absolutely. I can totally handle that. I was like, okay, can I drop that off like tomorrow? She's like, yeah, for sure. You can drop it off. I was like, okay, great. Thanks. She's like, do you need my address? And I was like, no, ma'am, I know where you live. I know where all you people live. I know where everyone lives. That's part of my superpower. That's why when I see a house go up for sale in Cokesbury Park, I know that I can ping Kelly and be like, oh my gosh, did you see that house for sale in your neighborhood today? That makes my touches so much more impactful. So I'm a creeper about knowing where everyone lives. And so I could just drive my routes. But as we scaled this and we needed to get bigger, I had to create like a spreadsheet to be like, go to this place. But now I think you can just like plug stuff in and it'll tell you your most like efficient route. So
hey, Anna, actually on what you said with the pop buys, I love pop buys, and I'm a ding dong ditcher. I don't even knock on the door. I just leave them at the door. But where it comes back for me is like my like sphere, they're all social media buffs, right? So the first thing they do is like take a picture and they're like, love my agent. Like it's been 3 years since I sold them a house, but I consistently do the pop buys. So then they jump online, they share whatever I popped off, and they tag me and they tag my business page. And they're like, if you need an agent. So that's where I see my like ROI with pop buys. But mine, they don't want to have a conversation with me. Like they just want to come home and get whatever I gave them and then share it on social media. And that's all that I want them to do. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I love doing them because I think they're so fun. Jody just did this one. Look how cute this is for Mother's Day. Can you see it? Like it's a champagne and orange juice.
So cute.
Well, I don't know if you
I
can.
love that.
There we go. We made this in Canva. Like we couldn't find what we wanted. So we took Jason Depkevich was on there talking about all his past client things. So I looked at one she liked online and we had to print them really quick. And she printed them from Canva. She said like you said, the print quality is amazing.
It's amazing. Canva is like should be your go-to printer. I don't care that they're not small and local. They're amazing. And I'll tell you another thing that for some of you that are like, oh my gosh, like systematic pop buys or like creating that stuff, like yikes. You use social media to help fuel this. And so like, I'll see someone just had a baby and they're in my database. Go to move. I'll go on to DoorDash. I will put their address in. I'll send them a pack of diapers and like a pack of Red Bulls and be like, you guys are doing great. And the dasher will usually send you a picture of where they dropped it off. So half the time I'll just take the picture. I'm not gonna be like, I just dropped this off in case their Ring doorbell caught it, but I'll just be like, hey, this is on your front porch for you. Like this emoji, love you. Like, and again, like a person that just had a new baby, they don't want to see your ass. Like they don't want you come into their house, but like just being able to like celebrate that and like recognize them and also be helpful. And then, I mean, time is my most valuable asset. So like the fact that I can do that in 2 seconds on my phone, and I used to spend, I mean, maybe this client's in Raleigh. I can't spend half of a day going to drop off diapers and Red Bulls to an A+ client, but I can DoorDash it because time and leverage are my best friends. So again, it doesn't have to be these like, oh, I came up with this cute thing. I think if that brings you joy and you love doing them, like, and they're very impactful, do them. They're super fun. And I think you do get more tags that way. Like Stephanie was saying, like, I think people will be like, look how cute and crafted and curated this is. But I'm telling you, like my people that I see are sick and I send over, I had a client that had a past client that's a great referral partner. They had like the stomach bug over the holidays. Like I just went to like literally Food Lion on DoorDash. I got like tons of things of chicken noodle soup and like electrolytes and Pedialyte and just had a delivery dropped at their house. But those are the things that like, they're so simple to do. And like, instead of just being like, oh, hope you feel better on your computer with 18 other people, go stand out. And here's my thing. I can do that because I'm not having to take my budget and spend tons and tons and tons of money on purchasing contacts in the interwebs world. And what I love about this, the way that I built my business, and the reason that I really want our team and agents that I coach and work with to recognize the beauty of the system is, it is really fun to put your time and your energy back into your people. It's not that I don't mind getting on the phones and calling and hitting online leads and trying to make conversions, but for sustainable periods of time, my joy comes in taking care of my people. It's part of my working genius profile, so no wonder I've been more attached to this. But this is the way that I've chosen to invest into my marketing. And I can just say from my profile, from who I am as a human, it's been a much more, for me, rewarding way to do business. Okay, what questions do you guys have? This is 9:25.
Nobody has questions because you're so good at explaining what you explain, Anna.
Well,
That's a
I've been
positive,
doing
not a
it
negative.
a long time. I didn't read about this last week, which is usually what I present on. I'll like read something and then a week later, like, I'm going to do a presentation on this. I've actually been doing this.
I was gonna say, I think I need help on like drip campaigns and, you know, stuff like that. Even like CMAs, I really want to do that. Like I know fellows coming in and saying, hey, this person's looking at evaluation. I may have talked to them the week or two before. Hey, I'm waiting. I'm not going to sell anything, and just giving them a price. But like, I need to probably get with Wendy. I want like a cute little curated CMA. Like I was thinking about it last night before I went to bed too, like what it would say. Hey, I was just thinking about you. I pulled some recent data. You know, it's always fun to see your new valuation or what the market's doing right now. So if we were to list your property today, here is the suggested price range or whatever, and do like a cute little thing. But it's getting myself automated enough to sit down and do that.
Ashley, do you use HomeBot?
We have Fellow. I don't think we use
Okay.
HomeBot.
I love it. Like HomeBot, it's super, we have a lender sponsor on it. So the lender pays the majority of it. And then we only pay $25 a month, and you can send unlimited, and you can like customize it and personalize it. But for $25 a month, like it's
You do it through
so
that
informative, and it
pulls all the
sends it.
data.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it sends it every single month and everything like that. And you get a notification when they're clicking through and things like that. So we use that, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I migrated from HomeBot to Fellow, and Stephanie, I love HomeBot. If you're like single agents on the team, like are on this call, like HomeBot is all I think you need. My problem with HomeBot was I couldn't keep it where I could monitor like team leads and farms and help people because the HomeBots were all different logins. So Fellow gives you kind of like a team platform for that. And then it talks to Follow Up Boss, which helps us. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a huge service. Oh man, I had something else. One thing that I think people feel it gets easier with the higher value that you offer. So I was sitting down with a newer agent yesterday, and we were talking about like when you're newer and sometimes like that, you just feel like you don't have value to add. And I think that not feeling like you have that value sometimes will make it feel like you are bothering someone to reach out to them. I used to struggle with this, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to say? Like, if I call this person, they're going to think I just want them to give me business. Number one, I love when people call and ask me for help, and most of the world does. They like to be helpful. So don't ever forget that it's okay to ask people for help in your business, in the world that already knows, likes, and trusts you. They actually will probably get joy out of helping your business grow. So number one, you cannot be afraid to turn around. We've been talking about this a lot on the team this past week. You cannot be afraid to go back to those contacts and say, hey, especially newer agents, I moved over into real estate. I'm trying to get some traction. I'm getting going. I've joined a great team. We have so many wonderful resources I want to share with other people. Who do you know? Can you help me build this database? I have people all the time that love to look at how big our business is now, because they know they were so critical in helping us get started because they weren't afraid to refer us. Don't deprive people that opportunity to do that for you. Like, it's not like, people love to help. They really do. We just usually don't love to ask for it. So I'm telling you to do that. But number two, just be very forthcoming as well. If you're going to make a line of calls into your sphere, one of the best scripts I have is I'll get on the phone and I'll immediately say, hey, Mitchell, this is actually a business call today, right? I don't leave them hanging on the phone with them wondering like, why are you calling me at Tuesday at 11 o'clock? Like, what's this about, right? I mean, I try not to keep, especially that A+, they should never be wondering why you're calling, but those like C's, sometimes those B's that are a little bit colder that you're not so systematic with, and you have to pick up the phone and call, just be very honest. Like, hey, I'm calling for business today. I'm just giving you a heads up. We're in growth mode right now at the team. We're really working on our market share. We've been very involved in the community lately. I just was calling to see who do you know in your community that could use our services. And usually they'll be like, oh, I can't think of anyone, and say, oh, okay, I understand. Thank you so much. It's, that's great. While I have you, just how are things? What are you up to? Right. And then I'll spend a few moments just kind of catching up, seeing what they're up to, asking about kids playing sports, whatever that may be. But you take that pressure off of that call, because you don't want them sitting there being like, why is she on the phone with me? This wasn't expected for my day today. Just get it out of the way. Tell them you're making a business call. I guarantee you the next time someone asks them for a real estate agent, they're gonna be like, oh, well, that Ashley girl, she's working, because she called me last week and said she was working. So be honest. Don't try to mask it into something that's not. Don't try to be like inauthentic and be like, I'm just calling to see how your family is. I don't care. I mean, personally, I don't care how your family is. I'm working, right? I'll see you at church and I'll ask you those questions. I'm not going to ask you about work, but if I'm making phone calls for the distinct purpose of moving my business forward, I'm not gonna chit chat for fun. I got more money making opportunities out there than chit chatting for fun. I like to do that on my own time. Does that help anybody? This is a business.
They're always helpful.
Just tell them. Okay, well, it's 9:30. So if Allison was on this call, she'd have kicked me off 15 minutes ago. So I guess I'll get off.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Anna. It's great.
Oh, good. It was a little thrown together. Don't tell Allison.
Anna, do you see my shirt?
Oh,
I'll
yeah,
see you soon.
it has the C like
Mhm.
call group. Thank you guys.
Shade.
Are you already back in Nashville, or are you at your house?
He left the call.
Oh,
He's here though. He's at the house working
I know. I was
outside.
going to try to wait for him last night and I couldn't do it. Oh, let me stop recording because no one wants to see this.